Hey guys, Digitech Lifestyle here, back with another video. Right, very controversial video today. One on the CBDCs that are coming down the line. This one here, the government will control the weather and you will be happy. Author of The Great Reset, Mark Morono. Who's that? The US government is considering blocking out the sun using technology funded by Bill Gates in the fight against climate change. People aren't buying electric cars fast enough, or they're not embracing the Green New Deal policies. So we have a risk. We have to risk our entire planet with this insane kind of research. It's basically weather modification. And if you look in the skies, most days you can see those chemtrails going across your skies on a daily basis. They're not just doing it in the USA, they're doing it in the UK. This is nothing new. This has been going on for quite some time. Ever since I've been looking up at the skies and looking up at why all of a sudden are we seeing all these lines across the sky. And if you think about it, this has been going on. This has had an effect on the wildlife. If you think about there's hardly any bees, hardly any wasps, hardly any butterflies anymore, hardly any natural insects. You know, this time of year we're approaching summer. We normally see bees in that, right? There's none. I saw one or two the other day. Yeah, wasps usually out. Ain't seen none of them yet. Well, I don't really like them, but still, they're still important to the ecosystem. Weather modification is bad. This is on Fox News. So if YouTube decides to block me for this, then I'm sorry, YouTube. You do not like this. You do not like the truth, right? CBDCs. They're coming down the line. Australia's putting in new draconian rules to make this happen. Okay, watch to the end of this video. Right, you're going to be informed. I hope you take note and listen to what is being said, guys. We're in a system that has changed. That has definitely changed. We're in a dual system, as I said before, and we're using cash at the moment, and we're going digital. End of. They're not going to stop it. Okay, so watch to the end.
You know, they were talking about climate change yesterday, and now we're learning that scientists and researchers are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion, though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well, this fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then? We have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo-jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops, and if they don't have them, there's the consequences of famine?
Well, the bad news is if it's a clear blue sky, it's not going to do anything at all, because it only takes water vapor that's already in the air and condenses it. However, for floods for agriculture, farmers, for people planning wedding parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events and agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes. All of them could be subject to weather modification.
Incredibly interesting. Professor Michio Kaku, thank you so much.
As the Biden administration signals its fight against global warming may actually involve blocking sunlight. The White House posting research claiming, quote, solar radiation modification would enable better informed decisions about the potential risk and benefits of SRM as a component of climate policy alongside the foundational elements of greenhouse gas emissions mitigation. Our next guest warns this is simply government's way to control your weather. Mark Morano, publisher of ClimateDepot.com, and he joins us now. Okay, Mark, my take this morning was maybe this is one of those or else, get on board with everything else or we're going to block the sun. But I guess it's a little bit more reality than that. Tell us about it.
Well, this is actually Bill Gates funding this as well through Harvard University. This is retro 1970s. In the 1970s, they believed that our fossil fuels were creating aerosols, blocking the sun, creating man-made global cooling. So they came up with the same kind of geoengineering solutions back then. They wanted to put black soot on the Arctic to melt it. There was one proposal to use nuclear energy to help loosen the Arctic ice caps because they thought they were growing too much. And John Holdren, back in the Obama administration, also supported this kind of geoengineering, if you will, of the climate. This is radical, risky, unproven, unknown effects, but they're doing it as a sort of lever over us to say now in the Biden administration, kind of like, yeah, we know this is dangerous, we don't know the effects, but darn it, people aren't buying electric cars fast enough, or they're not embracing Green New Deal policies, so we have to risk our entire planet with this insane kind of research. It's basically weather modification. China's been doing it for years. It's another form of what the U.S. government has even been doing. The ABC News meteorologists bragged about the cloud seeding they're doing to increase rain or snow and storms. They will control the government will control the weather, and you will be happy. That seems to be the new motto.
Yeah, I was just talking to Will about the cloud seeding. He's not sure if he believes it, and I said, listen, it's something they've been trying to do for a while. But on that same topic, if they don't get to block out the sun, they're going to try other, maybe more practical ways, like electric vehicles, pushing those on us. A poll out shows 59% of us oppose phasing out gas cars by 2035. 21% support Biden's policy on this. What's your take on it?
Well, this is, I don't think we need a poll to show us these numbers. The American people have voted. Less than 7% of cars are electric vehicle sales in America. And that's despite massive subsidies, massive tax credits, mandates of banning gas-powered cars led by California and 18 other states with trigger laws. They have done everything they can to promote electric cars, and they're more expensive, they have less range, and all they do is increase our dependence on China. It takes fossil fuels to make a car, it takes fossil fuels to recharge the electric cars. It makes no sense. And what they're doing is intentionally creating car shortages by these gas-powered car bans to force us into mass transit.
The 15-minute cities is something that the WEF has created called C40, and it's called C40 cities. I would urge you to certainly look on the internet about it and then go to all of the TikTokers and see what they're really saying. Basically, you won't be able to drive a petrol or diesel car anymore. You'll have to buy electric. If you want food, you will get a calorie-controlled system sent to you by text saying, this is what you can eat today. This is what you can have today. If you violate any of these things, they'll freeze your bank account. That is the next step. These are stages in which they're going to implement this stuff. And this was signed up by the WEF, and the WEF has signed up with our mayor in London as the chair. And he has gone around the world to communicate this C40 to all of the countries in the world. And most of the countries are looking at adopting it. Now, I am going to abolish it. It is a hopeless position. We are going to be in an open prison, or shall we say a COVID, for the rest of our lives. We will not be able to work unless it's in our 15-minute city. It's diabolical. It's not this is not the right thing. And it's been hidden from the public. No one's talking about it.
You briefed the press, did you not, when you were there?
Well, I had several jobs. One of my jobs was that of analyst. I also was an interrogator and indeed briefed the press when we, the CIA, wanted to circulate disinformation on a particular issue. Disinformation is not necessarily a lie. It may be a half-truth. And we would pick out a journalist. I would go do the briefing and hope that he would put the information in print.
What was your percentage of success?
We were pretty successful in planning information of a rather rarefied nature. For instance, if we wanted to get across to the American public that the North Vietnamese were building up their force structure in South Vietnam, I would go to a journalist and advise him that in the past 6 months, X number of North Vietnamese forces had come down the Ho Chi Minh Trail system through southern Laos. Now, there is no way a journalist can check that information. That's data derived from radio intercepts, spy in the sky photography. So either he goes with the information or he doesn't, and ordinarily or usually the journalist would go with it because it looked like some kind of exclusive. And I would say our percentage planning that kind of data was 70 to 80%.
Now, it's mostly the Labor government who'll be breathing a sigh of relief that the parliamentary year is drawn to a close. But I think my next guest, he might be a very close second. Senator Ralph Babet from the United Australia Party has repeatedly aired his frustration with the parliamentary processes and the disassociation many parliamentarians have with the impact of their decisions in the real world. Senator Babet joins me now. Senator, great to have you on the show. You're concerned that the Parliament is passing bill after bill without proper scrutiny or oversight. Now, I've got to point out, this couldn't be done without the support of the government, without the support of the Greens and a couple of the independents like Pocock and Lambie. Tell us, what has been going on in that madhouse?
Corey, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. Love to be on your show. What you said, what we heard before about Peter Singer is truly disturbing. But back to Canberra. What we see in Canberra would be more aptly described as an autocracy, not a democracy, where Labor has centralised power in the upper house with the help of Senator David Pocock, or as Pauline Hanson likes to call him, Doormat Dave, who may as well be a Greens senator, and the Lambies, who may as well be Labor Party senators. As a result, Corey, we've seen 127 bills passed by Labor this year, an average of 2 bills per sitting day. This is madness. Now, we also know that under Labor, the public service has grown to the point where 2.5 million people currently work for the government. What we need to do is this: take a leaf out of the Argentinian's president playbook, take a chainsaw to the bureaucracy, a chainsaw to big government, because all extra bureaucracy does is help the globalists, massive corporations, the unions. It does nothing to help the average Australian, the working class people, small business or democracy. The evidence is all around us. Look how worse our lives are under Albanese, his big state, big taxing, big government.
It's amazing how much damage they can do in 18 months, and I agree with all that you say there, Senator. Hey, we also saw the introduction of the non-compulsory, and we're assured it's non-compulsory, the digital ID bill in this last session. Now, personally, I wouldn't trust government with any information if I had a choice, but especially not a license to go on the internet, which is my pejorative description. I think that's got the potential to become exactly that, though. What's the current status of the proposal by the government?
It's horrendous. This is the biggest affront to your freedom that we've seen in our generation. Now, for digital ID, it will eventually be about as non-compulsory as that thing that so many people were forced to have a few years ago, that thing that wasn't compulsory unless, of course, you want to feed your family, pay your bills, have a job, or leave your house. Now, for those who don't know exactly what the digital ID is, it is essentially the digitization of your personal information under the guise of safety and security. It'll make it much easier for government and the corporations to control your life. I'll give you one example. I can see a future where digital ID is combined with the coming central bank digital currency, which is trackable money. Now, this technology means that the government, they can not only see where you spent your money, but what you spent your money on. Then let's say, because of our commitments to net zero, the government sets a monthly carbon quota. What happens when you hit your carbon quota? Well, your card simply won't work at the checkout when you try to buy red meat. And guess what? You're going to have to eat the bugs, as Klaus Schwab likes to say. This is the reality and the potential power of digital ID in the future. Now, I do not trust government with this power. They have shown us what they are capable of in the last few years, and it's not good.
There's about 14 ETFs that have hit the market today from 3 different issuers. Those issuers are China Asset Management Company, Harvest Global Investment, and Hashkey Exchange. You can see the countdown has started. 4, 3, 2,
1, Andre, your thoughts, please.
So I think there is this key MLETR trend, and the model law was published in 2017. Some jurisdictions have adopted it, and the UK, as Emmanuel said, is going to be a key trigger because the English law is key in global trade. But there is another development. I mean, Emmanuel said code needs law. I think that's right. And the technology world has progressed a lot. And cryptography in particular, together with blockchain, now enables basically to digitize the ownership of an electronic record, to digitize the transfer of ownership, to demonstrate the exclusive ownership of a particular electronic record. And this could not be done 10 years ago, unless you had like a club structure where you agreed with a central database that would be the custodian. Now technology, and again, it's mainly cryptography with electronic signatures, of course, but also blockchain, enables you to have an electronic record represented as a file that can be transferred between parties without all those parties being connected to the same platform. So really freely transferable documents. And that's what technology brings. And it's very recent technology in response to the MLETR, which is a legal framework, a legal requirement. So the two together now enables banks to serve their clients, indeed, in a very seamless fashion so that there's no disruption. What they're going to see on screen is not just a scanned copy of a paper document, but is the actual original document, whether it represents a guarantee, a bill of exchange, or prom note. And the marriage of the two, the legal developments around the countries through the jurisdictions aligning with MLETR, together with the technology world bringing new technologies, and again, mainly cryptography, is very promising because now banks can take advantage of those technologies to serve their clients in a fully electronic way. And we can go much further because once you digitize those documents, you can organize, fraud protection. You can track the financing status of a particular instrument to fight double funding of specific instruments or double use of specific instruments as a collateral. So this is an additional value proposition, but I think I want to highlight it because for banks, this is sometimes the key to be protected from a fraud perspective rather than the digitization, which is sometimes is seen as an intermediary step.
Of course. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Montague William III. And what I will tell you may well sound absurd, but the less who believe it, the better for me. For you see, I'm in banking and big industry. For many a year we have controlled your lives, while you all just struggle and suffer in strife. We created the things that you don't really need, your sports cars and fashions and plasma TVs. I remember it clearly how all this begun. Family secrets from father to son, inherited knowledge that gives me the edge, while you people lie sleeping at night in your beds. We control the money that controls your lives, whilst you worship false idols and wouldn't think twice about selling your souls for a place in the sun. These things that won't matter when your time is done. But as long as they're there to control the masses, I just sit back and consider my assets, safe in the knowledge that I have it all, while you common people are losing your jobs. You see, I just hold you in utter contempt. But the smile on my face, well, it makes me exempt. For I have the weapon of global TV, which gives us connection and invites empathy. You would really believe that we look out for you, while we bankers and brokers are only a few. But if you saw that, you'd take back the power. Hence, daily terrors to make you all cower. The panics, the crashes, the wars, and the illness that keep you from finding your spiritual wholeness. We rig the game, and we buy out both sides to keep you enslaved in your pitiful lives.
Over time, your money gets you less. Does Bitcoin? Well, in 2012, one Bitcoin bought you this much pizza. In 2016, this much pizza. In 2020, this much pizza. And in 2024, well, you get the gist. Roughly every 4 years, the future supply of Bitcoin is reduced. So historically, you get more, not less.
So what is money, and how does it get value? Paper money has value because someone says so. Bitcoin is different. It's like digital gold. It has value for many of the reasons gold does, but that's only the start. Gold originally had value because it was scarce, but no one knows how much is left to dig up. Bitcoin, on the other hand, has a limited supply, 21 million, and it can never be counterfeited. Every day, more people are buying it, making it more scarce, making it more valuable. But you can also split it up, because every Bitcoin is divisible by a lot. Each Bitcoin can be split into 100 million smaller units. So if one Bitcoin was worth $1 million, the smallest unit, called a Satoshi, would be worth 1 penny. So you can send whatever amount you want, and no one can stop you, because no central authority controls it. So unlike with banks and credit card companies, you don't need approval to use it, and no one can decide to just print more or shut it down. It puts the power back in all our hands. Bitcoin lets you control your finances. Kraken lets you buy Bitcoin. Kraken, see what crypto can be.
Pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack.